What would you do if your own child treated your hard-earned peace like a timeshare they owned? If they showed up on your doorstep with an army of strangers and an endless list of demands, expecting you to fund their perfect vacation while you slept on the couch? I was faced with that exact nightmare, and after a lifetime of saying yes, I finally discovered the incredible, life-changing power of a single, well-planned no. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you've ever felt taken for granted by someone you love, if you've ever been treated like a wallet instead of a person, then this story is for you. Stick around, because what starts as a heartbreaking betrayal ends with the most satisfying justice I've ever orchestrated. And while you're listening, if you feel that cathartic thrill of seeing the underdog fight back, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing this community grow. Now let's get into it. The key turned in the lock with a solid, satisfying clunk that seemed to echo through the empty rooms. I pushed the heavy oak door open and stepped into the silence. Not an empty silence, but a full one, a peaceful one. This was it, my sanctuary. After 40 years of fixing other people's cars as a master mechanic, after raising a son mostly on my own after my Clara passed, after scrimping and saving every dime that wasn't swallowed by bills or my son's endless emergencies, I had done it. I stood in the wide-planked wooden foyer of a small, sturdy cabin just outside the sleepy town of Pinecrest, Oregon. It had 2 bedrooms, one of which I'd turn into a library, a stone fireplace, and a back porch that looked out over a dense forest of Douglas firs, with the clearing perfect for a vegetable garden. I was 68 years old. The mortgage was paid in full. The money from selling the old suburban house, $425,000, was safely in the bank, a nest egg for the quiet years ahead. This cabin, my books, my garden, my solitude. This was the dream. This was the reward for a lifetime of hard work and compromise. That first week was magic. I woke up with the sun, not an alarm clock. I brewed coffee in my old percolator and drank it on the porch, listening to the chatter of squirrels and the distant cry of a hawk. I bought 4 plates, 4 bowls, 4 sets of cutlery, 1 for me and 3 for the occasional invited guest. I hung my favorite picture of Clara on the wall above the fireplace. I was, for the first time since I could remember, utterly and completely happy. I wasn't Dad or Gramps or the guy who can fix your transmission. I was just Arthur, and it was enough. The phone rang on a perfect Tuesday morning. I was putting my tools away in the new shed, the smell of pine sap and fresh-cut grass thick in the air. The screen lit up with a name that still made my heart give a little paternal leap. Brandon. I smiled, wiping my hands on my jeans. Maybe he was finally calling to congratulate me. He'd been against the move from the start. "It's a waste of money, Dad," he'd said, his voice dripping with that particular blend of concern and condescension he'd perfected since marrying Melissa. "You should stay in the city, closer to us." "Closer to you," I'd muttered to myself after hanging up. Closer to being on call for babysitting, for loans, for favors. "Hey, son, how are you?"
Dad, listen up. No, how are you? No, how's the cabin? His tone was all business, sharp and impatient. "We're on our way. Be there in an hour. 20 of us. Melissa's whole family. Her sister Tiffany, her 4 kids, her brother Kyle and his wife with their twins, a couple of aunts and uncles. You need to get rooms ready? Do a big grocery run. We're staying for 2 weeks. The world tilted. I could actually feel the blood draining from my face. "Brandon, what? An hour? I just moved in. I don't have—" "Dad, don't start. He cut me off, his voice hardening into the tone he used when he wasn't asking, he was telling. They're family now. You have to help. Melissa says it's the perfect place for a big family vacation. We'll see you soon. Get towels ready, the kids will want to swim in the river. Oh, and grab some snacks for when they get back. The line went dead. I stood there in my pristine driveway, the phone clutched in my hand, the peaceful sounds of the forest suddenly feeling like they were mocking me. 20 people, without a single question, without a thought to whether I could afford it, whether I wanted it. My cabin, my sanctuary, had just been downgraded to a perfect place for a big family vacation, a free resort. The rage came first, hot and sharp. Then, the familiar, soul-crushing weight of powerlessness. This was a pattern. Brandon needed a down payment for his house. I provided. His car broke down. I covered it. Melissa wanted a new designer sofa because hers was last season. I was the first call. Arthur will help. I'd once overheard her tell a friend on the phone. He's always good for it. I was not a father. I was a utility. The convoy arrived exactly 59 minutes later. Not one car, not two, but 3 massive SUVs, gleaming and expensive, crunching up my gravel driveway. The doors flew open before the engines were even off.
Chaos spilled out. Children shrieked and immediately began racing across my fledgling lawn. Adults stretched, laughing loudly, popping the trunks to reveal stacks of designer luggage and giant coolers. And there, in the center of it all, was Brandon, directing traffic like a general. "Dad," he bellowed, spotting me standing frozen on the porch. "Don't just stand there. Grab some bags. Tiffany's kids are exhausted." I was pulled into the whirlwind. The quiet of my home was instantly obliterated by the thunder of footsteps, slamming doors, and overlapping voices. "Arthur, this place is adorable," Tiffany trilled, juggling a screaming infant. "The kids are gonna love it. Hope you stocked up on food. We're starving." Kyle, Melissa's brother, clapped me on the back so hard I stumbled. "Pop, this is paradise! Kids, go run wild," he yelled, as his twins immediately began digging up my freshly planted marigolds with sticks. I was invisible to them as a person. I was the concierge, the bellhop, the caterer. The tour of the house was the final nail in the coffin of my dignity. "Okay, so Tiffany and the baby will take your bedroom," Brandon announced, peering into my personal space, the room where I just started to feel at home. "The baby needs a quiet space. Melissa and I will take the guest room. The rest can crash on air mattresses in the living room. You don't mind the couch, right, Dad?" He didn't wait for an answer. I stood in my own kitchen, watching a virtual stranger rifle through my refrigerator. "Whoa, Arthur," Kyle said, holding the door open. "6 eggs and some bread? That's not going to cut it for this crew. You got to make a store run and get the good coffee, none of that instant stuff." They presented me with a list. It wasn't a request. It was a requisition form. Diapers, premium formula, organic snacks, soda, beer, wine, steak and chicken for grilling, charcoal, chips, sunscreen, and insect repellent. The mental math was nauseating. Hundreds of dollars, maybe 1,000. "Brandon," I said, my voice tight, I can't afford all this right now. The move cleaned me out." He looked at me with genuine confusion. "So use a credit card. You've got to have one for emergencies." This, I thought, is the emergency. You. That night, as I lay on the lumpy pull-out couch, surrounded by the symphony of 20 people snoring, something inside me broke. But it wasn't a sad break. It was a clean break, a decisive one. The humiliation of serving a watery, hastily thrown-together pasta dish on my 4 plates while they complained about the lack of garlic bread. The sight of Melissa's Uncle Bob helping himself to the expensive scotch I'd been saving for a special occasion.
the sound of a child scraping mud off their shoes onto the arm of Clara's favorite chair. Each moment was a spark. In the kindling of a lifetime of being taken for granted was now fully ablaze. I thought about the time, just weeks after Clara's funeral, when Brandon had eyed her antique jewelry box. "You should sell this stuff, Dad. It's just clutter. I can handle it for you." And I, too grief-stricken to fight, had let him. I never saw a dime. I thought about every loan that was never repaid, every favor that was never returned, every holiday that became about what they received rather than what we shared. I was a bank, a hotel, a restaurant. But I was not a man. Not to them.
As the first rays of dawn filtered through the windows, I made a decision. I would not be their victim. I would not quietly fund my own exploitation. If they wanted to treat me like a business, then by God, they would get a business transaction. The next morning, the demands started before I'd even found my slippers. "Arthur, we need to talk about today's plans," announced Bob. "The kids found an adventure park about an hour away. Tickets are $50 a head. You'll cover it, right? And we'll need lunch money." $50 times 20 people. $1,000 just for entry. The audacity was breathtaking. I simply nodded. I need to run into town to handle something first. I drove to Pinecrest with a cold, focused determination I hadn't felt in years. My first stop was the local library, where I used the public computer. I researched Oregon's laws on tenants' rights and unlawful detainer. I found templates for rental agreements. I calculated the fair market value for a vacation rental in the area, a luxury cabin that slept 8 comfortably. The rest would be on air mattresses, a premium inconvenience fee. I factored in a chef's fee for meals, a concierge fee for planning, and a cleaning deposit. Then I went to the office supply store and printed it all out on crisp, professional paper. My final stop was my bank. I asked to speak with the manager, a kind-faced woman named Sarah. "Sarah," I said, laying it out plainly, "I have a situation. My family has essentially moved into my home uninvited and expects me to fund their vacation. I need to make sure that no large withdrawals can be made from my accounts without my direct, in-person authorization for the next 2 weeks. Can you help me lock it down?" She looked at me with a mix of pity and admiration. "Mr. Evans, of course, that's financial abuse, plain and simple. We'll put a note on your account immediately." Armed with legally binding paperwork and financial security, I drove back to the cabin. The revenge wasn't hot and angry anymore. It was cold, calculated, and utterly righteous. They were all gathered in the living room, a sea of impatient faces. "Dad, where have you been?" Brandon snapped. "We're waiting on you. We need to go to the adventure park." I walked to the center of the room, placed the stack of papers on the coffee table, and sat down in my armchair, the one piece of furniture they hadn't claimed. "We need to have a family meeting," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I've been to see a lawyer and to the bank." A wave of confused murmuring swept through the room. "A lawyer?" Melissa scoffed. "What on earth for?" "For clarity," I said, picking up the top packet. "You've all chosen to treat my home as a commercial vacation property. I've decided to embrace that. So, here are the terms of your stay." The room went dead silent. Effective immediately, the rate for occupancy is $200 per person per night. Given that we have 20 guests, that's $4,000 a night. For 2 weeks, that comes to $56,000. Kyle burst out laughing. "You're joking." I didn't smile. I am not.
Additionally, given that you've requested full catering services, I am charging a meal plan fee of $50 per person per day. That's another $14,000. Then there's the cost of activities, which will be billed à la carte. The adventure park trip today, for example, will be $1,000 for tickets plus a $200 fuel and driver surcharge. I require a 50% deposit up front for the lodging and meal plan, payable today. The rest is due upon checkout. You could have heard a pin drop. The sheer, unadulterated shock on their faces was more satisfying than any meal I'd ever eaten. You want us to pay you?" Tiffany stammered, her face pale.
"We're family." "No," I said, my voice dropping to a low, firm register. "Family doesn't arrive uninvited. Family doesn't demand and criticize and take. Family respects boundaries. What you're doing is called trespassing and financial exploitation. You have a choice. You can agree to these terms and pay the deposit. Or you can pack your things and find a hotel that better suits your needs and budget. The choice is yours." The explosion was instantaneous. "This is insane!" Melissa shrieked. "You're a greedy old man!" Kyle yelled. "After everything we've done for you!" Bob shouted. Brandon stood up, his face a mask of fury and betrayal. "Dad, stop this, right now. You're embarrassing yourself. You're destroying this family over money." I looked my only son dead in the eye. "No, Brandon, you all did that the moment you decided my savings account was more important than my peace. The moment you decided my home was your resort. The moment you decided I was your employee. The negotiation is over. What's it going to be? Are you paying guests or are you leaving?" The bluster and anger continued for another 10 minutes, but the wind was out of their sails. They threatened, they guilt-tripped, they called me every name in the book. But I just sat there, calm and immovable as a mountain. My financials were locked down, the law was on my side, and, for the first time, my will was ironclad. One by one, the reality dawned on them. The free ride was over. The packing was a spectacle of slammed doors, hissed insults, and dramatic sighs. They couldn't get out fast enough. Children cried, confused by the sudden change in plans. Adults shot me venomous looks as they hauled their expensive luggage back to their expensive cars.
Brandon was the last to leave. He stood by his SUV, shaking his head. "I hope you're happy, Dad. You just chose a pile of money over your own flesh and blood." I walked up to him. "Brandon, look around. This was never about money. It was about respect. You can come back any time you want to visit your father, but the bank is permanently closed." He got in his car and screeched out the driveway, spraying gravel behind him. The silence that descended was profound. It wasn't empty. It was clean. It was mine. I walked back into my house. It was a mess. Crumbs on the floor, dirty glasses on every surface, the lingering smell of too many people. But it was my mess, and I would clean it on my own time. The fallout was swift and deeply satisfying. Over the next few weeks, the story trickled out through the family grapevine. I heard from a cousin that Melissa's family was calling me a miserly hermit, and that the Pinecrest debacle was now family legend. They thought they were shaming me. They didn't understand they were writing a testament to my victory. But the real payoff wasn't in their anger. It was in my peace. I woke up when I wanted. I ate what I wanted. I spent my days reading on the porch, tending to my resurrected garden, and actually enjoying the silence. The money I would have blown on their vacation stayed in my bank account. I used some of it to buy a proper reading chair and a new set of tools. A few days after the exodus, my neighbor, An older widow named Eleanor came over with a pie. She'd seen the circus from across the road.
"Brought you something, Arthur," she said with a knowing smile. "Figured you could use a decent meal after all that." We sat on the porch and ate pie in comfortable silence. It was the first genuine, non-transactional human interaction I'd had in weeks. It was the beginning of a real friendship, based on mutual respect, not on what I could provide. I learned something fundamental that summer. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. I had been lonely in a house full of people who only saw me for what I could give them. Now, alone in my cabin, I was more connected to myself than I had been in decades. The word family gets used as a weapon, a blanket excuse for poor behavior and unchecked entitlement. But real family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, by reciprocity, by kindness. It's the people who ask how you are and actually wait to hear the answer. It's the people who show up with a pie, not a shopping list. Setting a boundary isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of self-respect. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't yelling or fighting back. It's calm, calculated, and legal. It's simply refusing to play the game anymore. They thought they could walk all over a tired old man. They learned that even the gentlest springs have the strongest coil. So tell me, have you ever had to set a boundary that changed everything? What's the most satisfying no you've ever said? Let's share our stories of reclaiming our power down in the comments. And if you felt a little thrill of justice listening to mine, pay it forward. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more stories about life, family, and fighting back. I'll see you in the next one.